Hello and welcome to another Daily Muppet. In this video, I wanted to run through basically the entire transfer plans in a way that is summarized nicely. I put out a big thread on Twitter X last night about all of this to really explain, as far as I understand it, where everything is at the moment and the key targets, all of that. So I'm just going to walk through it in this video to make sure that it is easily understandable, explain, give any further context to each thing. But I thought it would be helpful to have a bit of a summary of like, this is what we are doing. This is where we're going. This is where each deal is at. I did this last summer as well, and I thought it was in the end very useful to reference back to say, okay, this is where we were at. This is what we were pursuing. This is what changed. So these are just kind of the main names, the main targets, the main situations. There are obviously alternatives to all of this. There are obviously further things here that can be done in the window, but given the where we want to go this summer with the idea of letting go of a lot of players and potentially bringing in 4 or 5, maybe 6 players at a push, maybe some young players with that, um, and having a smaller, more focused squad, it's not outside the realm of possibility that we just move forward and get these main targets done, the names we know, players of sincere quality, and then move on from that. Um, so let's take a look at it firstly, starting with Liam Delap. This is as it stands as of the time of recording this video. United among as many as 4 clubs. That would be United, Everton, Newcastle, and Chelsea, as far as I know, that have a basic outline of agreement for Dilap and expect a decision this week. I don't believe that there's been any final communication to indicate a direction from Liam Delap or his representatives, but early discussions with his agent, with his representatives from some of these clubs, led some clubs to believe that Champions League would help their case. Playing time and position is also super important, but some also believe that the ability to play in Champions League would be a factor, and that has been backed up to a degree by a few others. United have made contact with the camp of Brian Mbeumo and maintain a concrete interest in the player. Sources indicate that there's work to be done to convince the player, given the club's position and other competition with Champions League to offer. So again, the potential concern being that there's another club, at least one that I know of, that are, as I believe, firmly in the lead for him at this moment. It's not Arsenal, that want to bring him in, and United will be competing with to try to convince the player. We've done so in the past. We've been able to convince players in the past, but so be it. The sale of Garnacho or others is likely to be key. We will need to raise funds for this because we have the budget set to go towards a striker. However, should United miss out on Delap, miss out on Gyökeres, and not have a quick run at a striker, this could be a deal they push for with the budget that they have in order to beat the competition, and get something down quickly that they really like in terms of a player. There are alternatives for the role that have been looked at, and I'll discuss a few of those later. So essentially, as I can gather it, they want Mbeumo, they want those 3 forwards, they want a striker and him after Cunha, but we need to sell to do all of that. But let's say we don't get Dilap, we don't get Gyökeres, we don't have a quick resolution to our striker problem, then we might as well go get a top target in a position we want to recruit for anyway, and then sell to buy for striker while we figure out what we're going to do there. But let's speak then about goalkeepers. The keeper situation remains very much in play. A move away for Onana is seen as more difficult, in part due to the remaining costs and wages. I did a video on the remaining costs, what you would need to sell Onana, why it will be difficult, and all of that. But needless to say, we still owe quite a bit of money because it was not a cheap transfer at all for him. And 30 something million left or something like that, 28 million, decent wages. So unless he were to go to Saudi where they could pay a big fee and pay the wages, it's going to be tough to sell him, or there's going to have to be a wage payoff in there. He's still also fairly well liked for certain reasons. India is more likely to leave, return to Turkey or elsewhere for more playtime is definitely possible. The interest from Saudi in Onana has not really become concrete at all. And then there's the targets that we're looking at. Two of the solid ones are Lamens and Vanya Milinkovic-Savic are two well-established targets representing what United want. This is what I've been told, a top shot stopper who comes off the line to claim crosses and is good in the air. And to provide competition for the number one. That's always been the thing I've heard all year when I was talking about James Trafford earlier, who's unlikely to happen, is that they wanted someone to come in and provide competition for the number one. That's what they've been looking at for the most part. Obviously, if Onana departs, they would want somebody come in and for sure be the number one, but at the very least, competition. I think both keepers would probably end up starting over Onana regardless, but Lamens and Vanya Milinkovic-Savic, indicate two that are very, very good. That are very solid targets that we want. Different. Vanya being older, Lamens being more of a prospect keeper. Both are expected to be fairly affordable, but a departure is likely necessary in this area to get something done. Then you have Gyökeres and Mateta, both strong options at striker, more expensive than Dilap at 30 million, who's viewed as a real opportunity for the price and potential and all of that, but they are more expensive. In the case of Gyökeres, securing Champions League would likely have put United in the driver's seat for him, where it would be easy to convince him. We'd have the money, we could have got it done. As it is, though, we remain interested with the player, expected to discuss with interested parties soon. However, of course, if Liam Delap gives us the all clear, we go ahead with that. We may not be going for Victor Gyökeres at all. At that point in time. And same, of course, goes for Mateta. So we likely need to raise a little bit of money to do one of these deals. Maybe, maybe not. But obviously, we'll see. If we move beyond Delap, then the need to convince and potentially raise the funds to do one of these deals becomes more and more meaningful at that point in time. Alternatives for the third forward, that right 10, like potentially behind Bryan Mbeumo, or different targets to Bryan Mbeumo who would fit into that right 10 situation, would include Tyler Dibling and Franco Mastantuono. Both difficult. Both would be very difficult to get done for different reasons due to cost, competition, and the need to convince the player. Dibling, very expensive. The price quoted by Southampton, absurdly expensive, even though highly admired. Something like 80 million when he should be 40 or 30 or 50. As a top prospect, he is viewed as a really top prospect, but the price is out of control. Mastantuono would be about 45 million euros. It couldn't be done until August. And there's big competition from Spain and elsewhere for him. But United have liked him, and they have looked into it. Other options exist, but these are the highest potential players being followed by United. And as it was, I did not have much info to support United making a move for Ryan Cherki, but it's also expected to cost 40 million, not really that 20 that was originally quoted. There's a story today that City are interested in him, and that's a little painful because I still am surprised we haven't made any sort of concrete move for Cherki, and that all directions seem to indicate we're not when he's there, and he should be, even at 40, he'd be affordable and a very good, potentially amazing player, but so be it. It is what it is. There's obviously others we've discussed in the past, the Nate Dorgelas, how does João Pedro fit into this, things like that, but those are two that we know for sure United have been interested in as young, high potential players. Then there's Antoine Semenyo. Strong links have been made at times to him, but the move for Mbeumo is more active. I'd be surprised about this one. I haven't heard much on it myself, but especially given the expected cost of 70 million or so plus for a player like him, that's a lot of money. He's a good player. He would make for me a fine wingback in this system, but damn, is that expensive, and I don't really have much else to share on that side of it. Then comes the always controversial part, the midfield. United do fully intend to sign an athletic, physically robust midfielder in a market. We do need one regardless. With Christian Eriksen leaving, there's actually minutes to be made up there, 1,500 at minimum. Obviously, Casemiro could still be sold. We'll discuss that in a minute. They intend to sign an athletic, physically robust midfielder. That's what they've wanted. However, the exact position of the midfielder is still a bit unclear from my side. The initial plan, there's Ederson, there's Wharton, two very different midfielders that United have been tracking for some time. Additional links to more affordable defensive mids like Anton Stack have been made. My original understanding was Ederson would be the ideal fit and target for the summer, getting that kind of attacking 8 player to come in. That you have, even if Casemiro stays, that you have Casemiro and Ugarte as your sort of deeper 6, with obviously flexibility in that, and that you want a more box-to-box attacking 8. However, the purchases in the forward line and departures could have a significant effect. I mean, we're discussing yesterday, if you go for Brian Mbeumo, he's starting. Well, then what happens to Bruno Fernandes? Does Bruno Fernandes become your starting 8, in which case you're not going to spend significantly there? Is it Bruno and Mainu, Ugarte and Casemiro? I think that's risky. I think that is out of possessions, has a lot of risks, but certainly provides you with a lot of attack. If you were to go Cunha, a striker, and Mbeumo, Bruno, that's a lot of attackers, in there. So we will see if Emeram is adjusting, or if it's based on the forwards, or where this goes, as this one is still up in the air. But they were fully intending to purchase at least one midfielder. But I guess we'll find out if that is starting to change or adjust, or see what happens with Bruno. And that's the last bit that I want to discuss in this video. Keep it concise, keep it brief. After this, it starts to get into places I don't really know how to describe. Once things happen, like the above scenario, if we end up buying Cunha, striker, and Mbeumo, and have all these forwards, what happens in the midfield? Is Bruno permanently that 8? Then what happens if you sell Casemiro? All of that. Casemiro will be difficult to move, but again, you have to think with the long-term building process too, not just next season when you're thinking about transfers, because that's what it's all about. If we go into next season, Casemiro, Bruno, there's no longevity in that, and it's not building us for the future, so it's really setting us back. There's very likely going to need to be some kind of change in here, or some direction towards a future, more permanent midfield. Casemiro will be difficult to move, but United would like to do so to free up spending for the midfield. Again, that's explained in the video that I posted a bit earlier. The club would prefer Kobe to stay and work his way into the team. The talent he has is undeniable, but his decision and desire to do so will also be key to that. And the same goes for Bruno Fernandes. He's weighing up a mega offer from Saudi, potentially from more European clubs that could come in. He and the club are giving it some thought. It has seemingly again been reported today another 72 hours or something. Maybe the original 72 is poorly timed. It hasn't been rejected. It hasn't been turned down. It hasn't been squashed as of yet. So what does that mean? We don't really know at this point in time. We don't know what this means. Maybe it has to do with those forwards. Maybe it doesn't. But it's really hard to say, and it's really up to him and the club to decide now what we're going to do. Obviously, it sounds like he's going to stay, but we just don't know for sure at this point, and the offer is still sitting there, and it's seemingly still being thought about. Should he choose to depart, the club will be handed the ability, of course, to invest heavily in the rebuild, and it will obviously change the nature of additional targets in the midfield. Then maybe you can just get that striker and Mbeumo and a midfielder and another midfielder and just fully rebuild all of that. I don't know. That's where it goes kind of crazy to me, and I can't really understand what happens next with that. But surely, they have a plan for if they suddenly have a windfall of 100 million in profit on what to spend it on, and how much further down the line of the plan we can go. I would assume it means you still get those 3 forwards, you get 2 midfielders, maybe you even progress to other positions on the pitch. So that's where we're at. That's kind of the basics that I understand it. If we want to let a bunch of players go and bring in 5, it would be Cunha, a striker, Mbeumo. In an ideal world, Cunha, Dilap, Gyökeres, Mbeumo, a midfielder, and a goalkeeper would be the 5 if you're going to do 5. So we'll see what happens with all of that. We'll see what other additional sales get made. That's where things stand currently. We'll see if we end up missing on targets like Dilap and Mbeumo and all that. If we have to start, if things get a little more complex. We had a nice, easy, straightforward deal with Cunha. May not be the case for the rest of them. It may not be so simple as getting the top target nailed down and easy, but we should find out soon on these options. And the striker one, I put it first because obviously what happens with Delap has a big knock-on effect to everything else and what else we do moving forward in the market. That's what I have for this video. Wanted to keep it short and brief, catch everybody up to date, so when we're doing lives and discussing latest news and all of that, you know exactly what's going on. Okay? Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. See you in the next video.